Hey there, welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green, and we are in the greenhouses at Fantasy Orchids in Louisville, Colorado. And this is where I actually rent space in order to grow my orchids in a wonderful, beautiful greenhouse environment. Water, fertilizer, sunlight, all those great things. Just looking around in Fantasy, they've got this Dendrobium microtrip. They got kind of a forest of them. Those are really cool dendrobiums, easy to grow and pretty flowers. They also have recently gotten in a big shipment of Bobo Philodendrons and really some unusual ones, some that I've honestly never heard of. But they've got Barbigerum, they've got Labii, they've got several. And yeah, just looking around, they've also got a nice little display of paths, including some really big bulldog paths, Momodia type paths, and they even have a couple path de pearls, which are really beautiful little flowers. But let's go back over to the boarding area where I have my space, and these are my green pets. These are my orchids. I have about 40 to 45 orchids right now. I kind of fit them all in this space, and it's just a wonderful place to keep my stuff. Let's have a look at the things that are in bud and in bloom. This is Cattleya Jesse Lee. It's actually an RLC, and it's got it's got 5 buds now, and the third sheath at the bottom there is pushing some couple buds too. So it looks like it's going to have somewhere around 7 flowers. It's going to be wonderful. This is Hal. Now, Hal is the nickname I have for Bobo Philodendron. You can imagine why I've got a nickname for it. And Hal, this was Hal's spike that he's recently shed. There were 17 flowers total that bloomed sequentially over the course of a year. And Hal's got a couple little nubbins pushing out the bottom of his bulbs there. Now at this stage, it's kind of hard to tell what they are. The one on the right there looks kind of long and thin, so might be another spike. This is a Bobo Medusa, and it is unfortunately not looking like, well, the plant looks okay, but it doesn't look like it's going to be blooming. It put out lots of spikes in the fall, but for whatever reason, they did not bloom out. It looks like a couple of them are trying to push out, but I'm not sure if it's going to or not. Now this little guy is a Momodia Jumbo World. This is a Catasetum type orchid. It's dormant right now. You can see there are no leaves on the plant. It's covered in plastic because during this time of year the plant needs to be kept completely dry, so the plastic keeps the water out of the pot. But it's got several flower buds, and hopefully in the next couple weeks or so those will crack open and we will see its beautiful green and red speckled flowers. Now, Phalaenopsis schilleriana is putting out the biggest spike that it has ever put out for me. It's got 6 big branches on it, 30 plus little buds starting to push out and form. So this guy is really on time to bloom at the end of February or so. It's going to be wonderful. I didn't stake the spike this year, so it would have a nice arching shape. Now this wonderful sea green splotchy slipper orchid is Path Appletonianum, and it's got 2 buds on it, and I was kind of curious last week if that was a big deal. Apparently it's not a big deal. Apparently all these paths are capable of putting out 2 flowers, but I'm excited and I hope that they come out really nice. We've got 2 more paths that are in spike. This is a Path Urbanianum, and the bud is pushing out nicely out the middle there. And then this Path Tonsum is actually really surprising me because the new growth isn't even, it's got 2 little leaves on it, but it's got a bud pushing up as well. So that's great. Looking forward to seeing some flowers on those in the coming months. And my little Cattleya Rex seedlings seem to be pushing out lots of roots right now. Now this typically is the time of year where they put out a flush of roots and then they start putting out their new growths for the summer. This one actually just completed a new growth. This was it's actually a mounted plant, just kind of stuck on a piece of wood there. But that is definitely an adult-sized leaf, so I would imagine the next growth on that thing will be blooming size. So that's really exciting. All right, well, let's look around the greenhouse, and as this is a boarding area, there's lots of different growers that have lots of different cool plants and things that are in bloom like right now. So let's start by going right next door. This is my neighbor's area in the greenhouse, and they've got some beautiful Roseoglossum flowers opened up, and these things are so big. They start out, I mean, you can kind of see in my, compared to my hand there, how big these things are. But they start out just these long, skinny buds, so when they finally open up, it's just hard to imagine that they're going to get this big. But yeah, this is what the buds look like, and they just kind of unroll and into these big chestnut brown and yellow flowers. Really nice. Now this little guy, it's Dendrobium aggregatum season in the greenhouse, so all of these, you can see the spikes pushing out of this plant. It's cool because in the greenhouse, all of the same species will start blooming at the same time, so there's literally seasons in the greenhouse for different plants. This is a cool little path that is going to be blooming soon. This is a Norito Hasegawa, and it is really takes a long time for the bud to develop, but very cool. This is one of my favorite little dendrobiums. This is a species. This is Dendrobium kingianum, and you can see it's got several nice little flowers pushing out. These guys can form pretty big clumps of flowers, and when they do, man, they're so nice. They have just a lovely sweet smell. Now, occasionally growers will bring in plants that they don't normally keep at the greenhouse, but they just want to bring them in for other people to see, and I'm sure glad that this grower brought this plant in. This is a gorgeous big Cattleya, and the flowers are absolutely enormous. They're humongous, and they have the loveliest fragrance. I mean, you just want to sit there and smell this. It's just sweet and floral, kind of rosy, honeysuckle, just wonderful. Now there's my phone in my hand to kind of give you an idea of the size of this thing. It's pretty massive. And it had 2 more spikes coming, so hopefully the grower will leave it there while it blooms out. Now this guy with the really long spikes is Lalea anceps, and it is a species. It doesn't have much of a fragrance, but it's really impressive with these very long spikes. Now this pink little beauty is actually Dendrobium country girl, which this is not my plant, but I received one of these plants at a raffle at our last Orchid Society meeting, and it's got buds all over it, so it's really cool to see what those buds are going to look like. This is a nobile type Dendrobium, and it's got a nice light but deep fragrance. And then this guy's another really impressive mounted plant. This is some kind of I think it's maybe some kind of Brassivola, or maybe a Rankolalia, something like that. I don't have the name. Actually, it might be the Aristocrat hybrid. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for stopping by. I'm William Green, and we'll see you next time on My Green Pets. See ya.